I played with the drummer in one other band. You played with the drummer.
I played with the drummer
and the bass player.
Before I played only with the bass player Ivo, and then yeah, we had a number of combinations with those 4 people.
We did record the first album in a cottage and in a relatively short time, and the second album was slightly longer, but still in a pretty modest conditions.
Basically, the second album was recorded in a studio, but we just used the rooms and the space for it and brought in mostly our own equipment. So
the third one was like a proper
studio.
Proper studio, and with the fourth one, I think we're kind of doing it in a more experimental way. The writing process, I think, is slightly different, and also the production of songs. I think we go back and forth between really small, maybe just like living room recording, and then doing a proper recording of something that we need to be big in a real studio.
And something in a rehearsal room.
Yeah.
It's more open.
It's gonna be very improvised.
For me, it was pretty interesting, the comparison. When I first heard that we were compared to Mumford & Sons, then I went to, that was some, I don't know, 6 years ago, something like that.
I think it was...
Even more, or?
No, it might have been after the second album.
Okay.
Or maybe not.
Some 5-6 years ago.
Yeah.
And sorry to admit, but I went, after reading that article, I went online and looked up Mumford & Sons, because I hadn't really listened to them before. And I started looking for it myself, like what we have in common. And we, I think there are songs that have something in common, but all in all, I think the vibe, or the yeah, mainly like the whole energy thing, and genre-wise also,
I think it's pretty far-fetched.
It's pretty far-fetched.
Yeah, I don't really see any similarities. I think we are different bands, but it's become like somewhat of a necessity to categorize bands
and to have comparisons.
And to have the comparisons. That they sound something like, for someone who has never heard you before, how would you describe your sound? There's yeah, I mean.
But it's, yeah, if somebody came to see our show expecting it to sound like Mumford & Sons, then I think
they're gonna be disappointed slightly.
I'm afraid so. I'm afraid so. The positive sides of touring in the USA, the first thing that comes to mind is it has also two sides, but are the long distances, which is you can really see the landscape and the nature, and like touring, like doing a cross-country tour is a great experience in that way. You get to see basically, you know, mountains and the desert and the straight highways going for like 1,000 kilometers. The nature thing.
That is true. But I mean, other than that, people are people, regardless where they are. It's I think it's pretty it's pretty hard over there with all the like concentration of bands, like a couple of bands that we toured there with. It's I mean, we went there and we met these guys, and you know, we've been doing this for like 5 years already, and so it's very concentrated regarding the bands, and the competition is super high. So that is definitely one thing that's like difficult over there. Might be easier, sort of easier in mainland Europe for bands.
And I really like the burgers over in the States.